Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take that entire stack of sources, all the research and the data that you've shared with us, and we don't just summarize it.
No, not at all.
We extract the pure essential insights and we turn them into, well, immediately actionable knowledge.
We really are the shortcut to being well-informed. And today, we are tackling a problem that is, it's universal for anyone learning a second language.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the ability to practice consistently and effectively when you are geographically isolated from native speakers.
Absolutely. If you are learning English in, say, Berlin or Shanghai or Sao Paulo, you just don't have that immediate constant exposure you'd get living in London or New York.
Right.
And your number one frustration, the thing we hear over and over, is this. How do I move from just understanding the grammar to actually using the language with fluency, with real confidence?
And that's a key word, isn't it? Using.
It is. Passive consumption, watching TV, listening to music, that's helpful, of course it is. But production, actually speaking, that is the massive hurdle.
And if you're just waiting around, relying solely on finding that perfect local native-speaking conversation partner who just magically appears in your cafe, you are setting yourself up for disappointment.
And for stagnation, right?
Stagnation, absolutely. Exposure is the input, we get that, but production is the output. And without guided, high-quality output, fluency just stalls. It hits a plateau.
Which is precisely why this deep dive is engineered for you, the isolated learner. We're moving far, far past the generic advice.
Yeah, we're not just going to say, watch more TV.
Exactly. We're assuming you already know to watch Netflix. We're presenting 8 distinct, actionable strategies. These are not general concepts. They are tools, they are methodologies, and specific resources designed to help you build fluency.
And to conquer those pronunciation fears, which are huge.
Huge, and to increase your confidence, even if your only practice partner, in the end, is just yourself.
What really stands out in the material you provided is the incredible range of these solutions. We're going to start with some high structure, high accountability group commitments that basically eliminate that geographic barrier. And then we pivot. We'll go toward these intensely private, really low stakes self-auditing techniques.
So it's a holistic approach.
It is. It ensures that every learner, regardless of your budget or your time constraints, has a productive path forward. There's something in here for you.
Okay, let's unpack this and jump right into the deep end.
Yeah.
We'll begin with the strategies that require maybe a slight social leap of faith.
A little bit of courage, yeah.
But they offer the highest return on structure and consistency. We're diving into tip number 1, spatial engineering, taking control of your local environment by creating your very own English zone. So tip number 1. This one requires a bit of organizational courage. The advice is to join an existing language club, sometimes called a language cafe. But, and this is the critical part, if one doesn't exist near you, the recommendation from all the sources is that you have to be the one to start it.
You have to initiate.
You have to actively initiate that change. You can't be passive.
And this is just a classic example of what I'd call entrepreneurial language learning. The environment you need. It's a social construct. It's not a geographical accident you just stumble upon.
That's a great way to put it.
And what's brilliant about this DIY solution, as the sources really emphasize, is that it doesn't need external funding. The cost is organization. The financial cost can be 0 or very, very close to it.
Right. And that organization, it really just boils down to nailing 3 core logistics: the why, the where, and the who.
The 3 W's.
Exactly. And if you botch any one of these, the club will implode. It'll be gone within 3 weeks, guaranteed.
So let's start with the mission. The why.
The why is, without a doubt, the single most critical determinant of longevity. If the purpose is vague, if it's just to speak English, people won't know how to prepare.
It's too broad. It is. And the dynamic becomes forced and awkward. The goal must align precisely with the participant's proficiency level. That is non-negotiable.
So give us an example. What does that look like in practice?
Okay, so if you have a group of, say, intermediate learners, the why might just be general conversational maintenance, free-flowing chatting about their week, what they watched on TV, very relaxed.
Low pressure.
Very low pressure. But if you have advanced learners, you need structure. They'll get bored otherwise. The sources suggest some highly effective structures here. maybe meeting to do advanced homework together, or, and this is more engaging, setting up formal debates.
Ooh, debates. I like that. That requires some real linguistic heavy lifting.
It does. And if you opt for debates, that requires pre-work. You can't just show up. You need to assign sides. You need to assign a topic that is engaging but not, overly technical or politically sensitive.
So what kind of topics are we talking about?
Well, think about things like the 4-day work week is essential for modern productivity. Or maybe social media is doing more harm than good.
Right, topics everyone has an opinion on.
Exactly. They're familiar, everyone has a take, and they force participants to argue complex points using formal language structures, things like subordinating conjunctions, conditional clauses. You're forced to level up your language.
And that clarity of purpose is non-negotiable. You have to advertise the why very, very clearly.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you promise a formal debate, but half the group shows up just hoping for some basic small talk, the expectations are just going to clash.
And the serious learners, who are the ones who often sustain these clubs long term, they will leave immediately. They won't come back next week.
That makes perfect sense. So that structure naturally leads us to the second W, the who. How do you attract and then retain the right members?
The sources offer some surprisingly low-tech but really high-impact strategies here. Of course, use the digital platforms, Facebook, local social media groups. That's a given.
The obvious stuff.
The obvious stuff. But don't underestimate physical visibility. Putting up well-designed posters in local university notice boards, community centers, or libraries. Old school, but it works.
But the truly crucial piece of behavioral psychology in the sources is the advice to bring friends first.
Yes, this is so important.
Why is that the secret sauce?
Because the paralyzing fear for any organizer is sitting alone in a cafe for an hour waiting for strangers who might not show up. It's mortifying.
I can feel the anxiety just thinking about it.
Right. But if you rope in 2 or 3 friends who are already committed, you achieve 2 things. First, you guarantee initial attendance. There will be a meeting.
You've got a baseline.
You have a baseline. And second, you establish a solid, committed core culture right from the very first minute.
And that core culture is what's key to retaining the new members who show up.
Exactly. When a new person arrives, they are joining an established, warm conversation. They're not just facing a single, awkward organizer staring at them. It lowers that social friction so much.
But the who also requires a strategy for dealing with classic group dynamics, which the sources sort of touch upon implicitly.
They do.
What are the pitfalls we need to warn our listener about here? What can go wrong?
There are 2 main ones, the dominance problem and the commitment problem.
Okay, what's the dominance problem?
That's when one highly confident speaker, often not a native speaker, but just the most outspoken person in the group, monopolizes the entire session.
We've all seen that.
We all have. The organizer, you, must politely but firmly implement a system where speaking time is equalized. Maybe you use a timer. Maybe you just make sure everyone gets a chance to answer a question before moving on. You have to be the moderator.
Okay, and the commitment problem.
Cancellations, last-minute dropouts. You must set a clear policy that consistent no-shows, people who RSVP yes and don't show up, will be replaced.
A little strict no.
It might sound strict, but otherwise, the serious members feel their time is being wasted, and they're the ones you can't afford to lose.
That is really robust advice.
No.
Okay, so we've got the why and the who. Let's tackle that final logistical hurdle. The where. People panic. They think they need to rent a conference room or something.
They do. But the sources gave us 3 phenomenal, low-cost, or even free alternatives.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, the library. Libraries are quiet, they are temperature-controlled, they're universally accessible, and they're often really happy to support educational groups.
And many of them have those little study rooms, right?
Exactly. Small study rooms that you can often book for free. It provides the perfect, focused, no-distraction environment.
Okay, option 2.
The cafe option. This requires strategy, though. You don't just walk into a busy cafe on a Saturday afternoon and take over a table for 2 hours.
Right, bad form.
Very bad form. You approach the manager during a quiet period. The specific example in the source was Tuesday lunchtime, and you ask permission. And you make an explicit commitment.
Which is?
That every single person who attends will buy a coffee or a pastry or something.
Ah, so you're not a burden. You're actually a customer.
You're a reliable source of revenue during a lull in their business. It's an unspoken rental agreement where the payment is generated sales. This transforms your club into something that is sustainable and even welcomed by the business owner. They'll be happy to see you.
That's brilliant. Okay, and the third option?
And finally, the oft-overlooked community resource. local churches, or religious centers, these organizations are frequently looking for ways to serve their communities.
Right. Community outreach is often part of their mission.
It is. And offering unused space for free educational and skills development is often very high on their priority list. It's a resource that requires zero money, only a polite, sincere request.
So the big takeaway from tip 1 is that if you want a community, you have to build it. And building it successfully relies on just being really strict with those 3 logistics. A clear why, a reliable where, and an actively managed who.
You nail those 3 and you've got a sustainable practice group.
Okay, so if managing a local group feels, a bit too overwhelming, or if your local area truly offers zero potential for that.
Which is possible for some people.
It is. Tip number 2, pivots 180 degrees. We're going into the high-intensity, high-reward track, joining a structured online language challenge.
This is for the listener who craves immediate access to qualified native speakers and, crucially, requires a high level of external accountability to succeed.
That's me. I need the accountability.
A lot of us do. The internet completely obliterates the geographical barrier, but the challenge provides the necessary structure to turn that remote access into true immersion.
And the sources gave us an incredibly specific, very detailed case study of this model. The Lingoda Sprint promotion. It used to be called the Language Marathon.
Right.
And this isn't passive learning. It's a full-contact, short-term immersion program, and it's built on a really clever financial incentive.
And that financial incentive is the core psychological insight here. It's what makes it work. The incentive is a risk reversal mechanism.
What do you mean by that?
It's the potential to earn up to a 100% refund on the course cost, but only if the learner successfully completes the very, very strict attendance and participation requirements.
So that reframes the entire process. You're not just paying for lessons. You're essentially putting a deposit down on your own discipline.
Exactly. The reward for meeting a 3-month commitment is getting the education for free. That level of motivation, it far surpasses standard tuition models where you just pay and, maybe you show up, maybe you don't.
Let's break down the mechanics as they were detailed in the source material. The challenge is designed to radically improve your confidence and fluency in a really tight, fixed 3-month window.
And it offers classes not just in English, but also Spanish, French, German, and even business English, which is a huge plus for professionals. It covers a wide array of utility.
And the intensity options are really crucial because they acknowledge that people have different life commitments. You can't just have one size fits all.
No, you can't.
So you can choose the Super Sprint, which is, it's breathtaking. 30 classes per month. That's effectively a class every single day for the entire time.
That's a huge commitment.
Or there's the regular Sprint, which is 15 classes per month, so about 4 classes a week. Much more manageable for most people.
But the essential, non-negotiable rule, and this is the key to the pedagogy, is the pacing limit. Only 1 class is allowed per day.
Why is that so important?
It prevents learners from trying to game the system by cramming all 30 classes into the last week of the month just to get the refund.
Right, binge learning, which we know doesn't work.
It doesn't work for long-term retention. This rule forces daily, consistent, spaced repetition and practice. And that is the mechanism for long-term memory integration. It's just solid science.
That daily consistency is the engine of rapid fluency. Plus, the sources confirm the quality control is there. All the teachers are qualified native speakers, which directly solves that primary complaint our listener has.
And the learning environment itself is optimized for one thing: speaking. Group sizes are intentionally small. The average is only 3 students per class. Just think about that ratio for a second.
In a traditional class of 20 people, you might get to speak for 5 minutes if you're lucky.
Exactly. With 2 other students and a teacher, you are guaranteed significant interaction time in every single session. You cannot hide in the back of the classroom. You are forced to produce language.
They also seem to minimize the organizational burden on the learner. The curriculum is all structured, the learning materials are provided.
Yeah, it's designed for the student to just log in and perform. This is high-efficiency learning. No time wasted figuring out what to do next.
We also have to emphasize the credibility that was mentioned in the sources. Lingoda holds a pretty significant accolade. They are an authorized linguist skill agent for Cambridge Assessment English.
That's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. This isn't just some private platform operating in a vacuum. That affiliation implies a standard of quality, of curriculum design, and assessment rigor that should build enormous trust for a serious learner.
It's a massive endorsement.
It is. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the contractual specifics of that refund. because we have some data here.
We do, and the sources state very, very clearly that your success in getting that refund hinges on participating in the agreed number of classes each month and adhering to that one class per day limit.
No exceptions.
No exceptions. And the best piece of advice we extracted from the data, which should be, tattooed on the forehead of anyone attempting this, is that properly reading the rules is the absolute key to achieving the 100% refund.
So it's an operational test as much as it is a language test. Did you show up on time? Did you attend the right number of classes? Did you use the correct booking window?
All of it. The dates provided in the source, the sprint running from January 29th, 2020 to April 27th, 2020 with those sign-up extensions, they demonstrate that this is a finite contract with rigid start and stop points. You have to follow the rules precisely.
And this financial accountability system, it's not a gimmick.
No, it works because it leverages a powerful psychological principle called loss aversion. The fear of losing the potential refund is often a much stronger motivator than the desire to gain knowledge.
That's a bit cynical, but probably true.
It's just human nature, and the data supports this. Over 20,000 people participated in similar challenges over the 3 years preceding the sources. This is a proven high-stakes model that gets results.
And the outcomes they reported were profound. Graduates talking about life-changing experiences, getting promotions at work because of their new fluency, or gaining the confidence to travel internationally without fear.
That intensity, that daily practice, it fundamentally transforms the learner's relationship with the language in just 3 months. It's a compressed, powerful experience.
So if you, our listener, need rapid forced fluency and you just can't rely on local resources, this high accountability structure provides a complete solution. It delivers the native speakers and the discipline directly to your laptop, wherever you are in the world.
And one final detail that I thought showed a real commitment to the learner. We even saw specific historical data points, like a discount code, Sprint 142, which offered a €10 discount off the first month's payment.
So even in a high-intensity commitment like this, there are ways to mitigate that initial cost just a little bit.
Exactly. So if tip 1 is about spatial engineering, building your own space, tip 2 is about temporal engineering,
Okay.
forcing a 3-month period of radical, high-quality, non-negotiable consistency.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay, now that we've covered these highly structured options, let's pivot. Let's talk about how you can create an English immersion bubble around yourself, using targeted technology and some clever detective work to find those hidden pockets of speakers. Tip number 3. This takes the most generic piece of advice ever. Listen more, and it makes it surgical. We're discussing the strategic, targeted use of the BBC Sounds app.
Right. This moves way beyond just passive listening. The goal here is to match your listening material precisely to your proficiency level, your native dialect preference, British in this case, and your psychological desire for engaging content.
Why is that last part so important?
Because immersion is only successful if the content actually holds your interest. If you're bored, you'll tune out, and then you're not learning anything.
So, the BBC Sounds app, assuming your operating system and your location in the world allow you access, it just unlocks this universe of high-quality audio content.
A huge universe. Radio programs, specialized podcasts, mini clips, the sheer variety of accents and registers you can find there is the key benefit. It's not one monolithic British accent.
Let's analyze that variety. It's not just the formal news, is it?
Not at all. You have complex science documentaries, structured crime narratives, which are hugely popular, and discussion programs with sports commentators or experts in a given field. This means you, the listener, can focus on language within your own niche interest.
And that niche focus is absolutely vital for sustained learning. We can't stress that enough.
We can't. If you are deeply interested in the latest developments in, quantum physics, listening to a BBC podcast about that topic means you are concentrating 90% on the content and maybe only 10% on the language.
And the language just becomes this transparent vehicle for the information.
Which is the very definition of successful immersion. You forget you're studying.
The sources even gave us that fascinating little anecdote about what the host called chewing gum for the brain content.
Yes, I loved that.
Specifically, consumer programs where people call in to complain about things like the price of peas in the supermarket.
Right.
So why is that chewing gum content so effective for language practice?
Because the language is highly transactional and it's extremely context-dependent. It uses real-world, everyday vocabulary concerning shopping, budgeting, complaining.
In language you can actually use.
Highly functional and immediately applicable language. And what's more, the stress and the intonation patterns that someone uses when they're expressing exasperation or frustration Those are excellent real-world lessons in emotional delivery.
Okay, now let's talk about level matching within the app, because this is a strategic exercise. For advanced learners, the source recommended a specific program, The Archers. It's a very long-running radio soap opera. Why that one?
Soap operas, particularly ones with a focus on rural or regional settings, are absolute gold mines for accent training.
Why is that?
They feature characters from diverse social strata and different regional origins, so the listener's forced to process non-standardized English. You hear the regionalisms, the subtle cadence changes, the different paces of speech.
It's invaluable training for real life.
It is, because in real life, nobody speaks with the sterile, neutral voice of a language course narrator. This pushes you past the textbook definition of the language.
Okay, so that's for the advanced learner. But what about the intermediate listener who finds that full-throttle adult drama just a bit overwhelming?
The smart trick here is to use the children's section, and we need to be really clear about this. The sources emphasize this is not simplified content in the sense of, dumbing down the vocabulary.
It's not baby talk.
No. It's easier to understand because of its structural elements. Short stories, clearer narrative arcs, and a generally slower, more deliberate pacing. It often has fewer complex embedded clauses and subordinate phrases.
So it's really a strategic move to reduce your cognitive load.
Precisely. If you are struggling with a densely worded crime documentary, switching to a 15-minute children's story allows your brain to focus on comprehension and pronunciation without getting fatigued by excessive structural complexity.
It's a confidence bridge. It gets you from one level to the next.
A perfect way to put it. So, tip 3 is all about using high-quality audio tools to build an audible immersion bubble around yourself, systematically tailoring your content not just by topic, but by structural complexity and dialect exposure.
Right. For tip number 4, we return to that fundamental problem. I cannot find native speakers near me. But our source material challenges you, the listener, on this point. It says, you might not be searching the right way.
And this is a classic search failure. It's based on a cultural keyword assumption. A learner might logically search for something like Americans in Paris or British speakers in Rome.
Seems logical to me.
It does. But those people, the Americans and Brits, often use a different term when they congregate socially abroad.
And the crucial keyword, the expat trick, is the term expats, short for expatriates.
Exactly. British or American English speakers who are living abroad very commonly identify and organize themselves using this term.
It's an internal nomenclature, a bit of jargon that non-native speakers might just overlook.
They do, and by shifting your perspective and using the language that the community uses to describe itself, you bypass that linguistic barrier and you find exactly where they are gathering.
So the actionable strategy is simple and it's platform specific. Search platforms like Facebook for groups with names like expats in, and then insert your city, town, or country.
The sources use the specific example of expats in Seville, which illustrates that these groups are numerous and they are highly localized.
Okay, so you find the group. This unlocks 2 huge benefits.
It does. First, it immediately directs you to public social events. Expats need community, so they are constantly posting details about meetups, pub quizzes, holiday gatherings, you name it.
And you're welcome to attend those.
Absolutely. They're public events. You can go, even if you're just there for the English practice. It's a very low-pressure way to socially integrate. You're showing up to a public event, not demanding one-on-one attention from a stranger.
That makes a lot of sense. But the second and arguably more powerful benefit is the reciprocity opportunity.
That reciprocity is the perfect self-funding language solution. It's beautiful. The vast majority of these expats are, themselves, trying to master the local language of the country they're in.
So if they're in Seville, they're trying to learn Spanish. If they're in Tokyo, they're trying to learn Japanese.
Exactly. So a perfect exchange scenario is created. You offer them high-quality, real-time practice in the local language, and in return, you receive practice in English.
This bypasses the need for costly tutors or complex organization.
Because the mutual benefit is immediate, and it's crystal clear to both parties.
It's vital, however, to establish clear reciprocity ground rules. I can see this going wrong.
Oh, it can. The exchange must be structured, you have to agree. 30 minutes in English, then 30 minutes in the local language, or whatever ratio you decide on. If you don't structure it, one language will inevitably dominate.
Usually the one that's more comfortable for both people.
Almost always, so you need that discipline.
Okay, so this tip is about leveraging a small cultural keyword difference to unlock high-quality local networking and structured reciprocal language exchange. It transforms that feeling of isolation into a solvable research problem.
It shifts the mindset, doesn't it? From passively waiting for practice opportunities to actively and intelligently hunting them down.
That sets us up perfectly for our final section. We've covered community, we've covered structured immersion. Now let's pivot hard to the solo strategies, the refinement techniques that rely on technology and self-analysis to conquer pronunciation and grammar when you are totally alone.
This final quarter of our deep dive is where we really focus on bridging that gap between your internal knowledge, what you know in your head, and your external production, what actually comes out of your mouth.
And the first of these techniques uses existing, totally ubiquitous technology to reduce the intense pressure of real-time communication. Tip number 5. Use asynchronous voice notes as a low-pressure bridge to a full, live conversation.
Asynchronous being the key word there, not in real time.
Exactly. The method involves finding a safe, trusted partner and agreeing that all your communication will be conducted exclusively via platforms like WhatsApp voice notes. You send one, they reply with one.
Before we even get into the linguistic benefits, we absolutely have to reiterate the strong safety warning that was in the source material.
Yes, please do.
A trusted partner is paramount. Never, ever give your mobile number to strangers you meet online. Use official, recognized language partner platforms, and be extremely aware of individuals who pivot quickly from language help towards seeking a romantic relationship.
Right, your goal here is genuine language practice, not a dating service.
Your safety and your boundaries are essential for a productive exchange, so get that right first.
Okay, so assuming safety is secured, let's analyze why voice notes are so much better than, say, written chat or even a full phone call at this stage of learning.
Well, written chat fundamentally ignores the core problem of fluency, which is pronunciation. English spelling and English pronunciation are notoriously disconnected.
The joke is they're not even friends.
They're not even friends. Voice notes force you, the learner, into sound production. The physical act of forming the sounds, the stress, the intonation patterns of the language you have to speak.
And they also drastically reduce the cognitive load compared to a live phone call. In a live call, the pressure is just immense.
It is. If you don't understand what the native speaker just said, you have to immediately interrupt and ask them to repeat. Or, and this is what most learners do,
Nod and pretend.
just nod and pretend you understood, which is completely destructive to learning.
Right. Voice notes eliminate that time pressure entirely.
Completely. You can replay the native speaker's message 3, 5, 10 times if you need to until you fully decode their fast, natural delivery.
And on your end.
You can take a full minute to compose your own response. You can delete and re-record a reply that you stumbled over, and then you send the polished, best version of your speech.
So it's high-quality communication, but without the immediate crushing stakes of a face-to-face interaction.
It is. And unlike purely written text, voice notes still preserve some of those nonverbal cues.
Like what?
Intonation, emotional tone, pacing. Those are crucial for developing communicative competence beyond just textbook grammar.
So it acts as the perfect intermediate training ground.
It does. It builds the essential muscular memory for articulation and rapid sentence construction while allowing you the necessary processing time to internalize structures and refine your acoustic output. It is the safe practice arena before you step onto the high-pressure field of a live conversation.
Okay, tip 6 is about cultivating radical self-sufficiency. If you have to constantly ask your native speaker partner, how do I pronounce colonel? Or where does the stress fall on the word present? You are slowing down both of your progress.
You're using up valuable interaction time on basic lookup tasks. The learner must have the tools to find these basic pronunciation details independently.
This is a move toward high-efficiency learning.
It is. The goal is to offload the basic queries from your variable human partner onto a reliable, structured digital tool. And the sources recommend a very specific resource, the Oxford Learner's Dictionary.
Why that specific dictionary?
Yeah.
Why not just a generic online translation tool?
2 reasons, both focused on precision. First, it acknowledges dialect reality. It provides pronunciation for both British English and American English.
That's huge.
It is, because it allows you to align your study with your intended dialect goal. You can easily compare the subtle differences, like the different vowel sounds in a word like schedule or the inclusion of the final R sound in American English.
And the second reason?
This is the truly critical feature. It shows the phonetic transcription, and we need to explain this clearly. This refers to the International Phonetic Alphabet, or IPA.
What is that for someone who's never seen it?
The IPA is a system where every single sound used in human language is represented by a specific, unique symbol. So the symbol for the she met sound in shoe, for instance, always looks the same, no matter how the word is spelled in English.
Which is vital because it bypasses the deceptive nature of English spelling.
Exactly. Take a word like through. The spelling tells you absolutely nothing useful about the sound, but the IPA transcription will show you exactly which vowel and consonant sounds to make, stripping away all that visual confusion.
Or what about that example I gave, the word present?
A perfect example. As a noun, a gift, the stress is on the first syllable, sent. As a verb to deliver something, the stress is on the second syllable, pre-sent.
How does the dictionary show that?
The phonetic transcription visually shows that stress shift, usually with a small vertical line, like an apostrophe, placed just before the stressed syllable. So you can listen to the sound, see the precise symbols representing that sound, and then compare exactly where that stress mark falls.
So it transforms pronunciation from just rote imitation into a systematic study of phonology.
It empowers you to analyze sound structure, not just memorize. And that ability to independently decode and verify pronunciation is a hallmark of an advanced, self-directed language learner. Now for the least expensive and most scalable of all the techniques. Tip number 7, the solo conversation. Just talking to yourself in English, constantly.
This is the one that requires embracing the possibility that your neighbor might think you are a little bit eccentric,
They might.
especially if you're doing it out loud. But the benefits are absolutely worth it. The goal is to generate output with zero barriers to entry. It is pure, pressure-free repetition.
And the core linguistic benefit here is all about reducing cognitive load. Most language learners suffer from a lag time, a hesitation, because they engage in internal translation.
What's that?
They think the sentence in their native language, their L1, then they mentally translate it into English, their L2, and only then do they speak. That process is slow and it's cognitively draining.
So by forcing yourself to speak mindlessly, either just in your head or out loud, you're training your brain to bypass that translation step entirely.
You're forming a direct connection between the thought and the English output. You're making English the primary channel for your mundane, functional thoughts.
And the application needs to be practical. The sources gave that wonderful example. When you are cooking, run a cooking show for yourself.
Yes, narrate every single action. I'm chopping the onions now very carefully. I'm putting the chicken in the hot pan. The potatoes need to boil for about 20 minutes.
And that narration, it forces you to access functional procedural vocabulary instantly.
Instantly. You can't pause to look up the word for sauté. You have to use the language that is available to you right now, which perfectly mimics the pressure of a real conversation, but without any of the social stakes.
And this practice improves conversational flow. Fluency isn't just about knowing every word. It's about speaking without those unnatural long pauses.
Right. And if you can effortlessly narrate your day, your brain is just getting used to stringing sentences together in a smooth, continuous stream. This high volume of low-stakes practice is what reduces the ums and ahs when you finally enter a real conversation.
So it's the constant low-pressure rehearsal that builds the conversational muscle memory you need for those high-pressure situations later. But if talking to yourself is the rehearsal.
Then tip number 8 is the rigorous performance review.
This is the essential next step after the solo conversation. It moves you from mere output generation to objective self-analysis.
And the concept is incredibly simple. You must record yourself speaking English and then listen back with a critical ear.
This technique leverages a fundamental psychological principle, the shock factor of hearing your own voice played back. We all have this internal monitor, right? A perceived sense of how we sound.
And it is often wildly inaccurate compared to the external reality of the sound waves coming out of our mouths.
That gap between our perception and the reality is where most pronunciation mistakes hide.
They do. In your head, you might be confident you are producing the correct vowel sound, or you're placing the stress on the right syllable, but the recording, it's an impartial auditor. It reveals the truth.
So what should the listener record? The suggestion is to read a passage aloud.
Right, and you can choose a structured news article for formal language practice, or maybe a relaxed blog post for more conversational practice. The material actually matters less than the rigorous analysis that has to follow.
And that analysis must be systematic. It's not enough just to listen and feel bad about your accent.
No, that's useless. You must use the recording as a diagnostic tool. First, listen for pronunciation errors. Then listen again specifically for grammar mistakes, those natural slips that occur when the language isn't planned out.
Like what kind of mistakes?
Things like misplaced articles a versus the or incorrect verb tense endings. The recording catches those habitual, unplanned errors that your brain just filters out while you're speaking.
One of the sources even mentioned the speaker noticing their own natural, non-planned slips when editing their own videos.
Which proves that even a native speaker benefits from this kind of critical external self-audit. We all have verbal tics we're not aware of.
So what's the process? Do you just listen?
We recommend taking notes while you listen. Transcribe the parts you struggled with. If you realize you consistently omit the third-person sex, you say, he walked to the store instead of he walks, that now becomes your targeted practice point for the next week.
So you move from these vague improvement goals, like I want to sound better, to measurable, specific error correction.
Exactly. The overall goal is rapid improvement through rigorous, objective self-analysis. This technique provides the essential external feedback loop that you need for refinement, and it fills the gap left by the lack of a live native speaker.
It requires some humility, though. It can be tough to listen to yourself.
It requires humility, but it is one of the fastest paths to fluency. It closes that loop between your intention and your execution, ensuring your internal language map is constantly being calibrated against the external reality. #tag outro.
And with that, we have completed our deep dive into the Isolated Language Learners Toolkit. We've covered 8 distinct and actionable strategies for building fluency, confidence, and accuracy, even when you're outside of an English-speaking country.
We really moved across the entire spectrum, haven't we? From those high accountability structured financial incentives like the Lingoda Sprint, that was tip 2, which promises a 100% refund for diligence.
All the way to creating low-cost, high-impact communities via the Language Cafe in tip 1 and the very clever expat trick in tip 4.
And we gave you those essential private refinement techniques, using high-quality targeted audio like the BBC Sounds app, which was tip 3, using asynchronous voice notes in tip 5 to bridge that communication gap.
And achieving independent mastery with a detailed phonetic transcription in the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, tip 6. And finally, those essential self-audits of talking to yourself, tip 7, and recording your output, tip 8.
The common denominator across all of these strategies is moving you, the learner, from passive consumption to proactive production and, crucially, measurement. You are actively constructing the environments, social, digital, and internal, that force you to generate high-quality English output consistently.
So the final call to action is not to try all 8 of these tomorrow. That would be overwhelming. Pick 1 or 2 strategies that really resonate with your lifestyle and your budget.
Just one is enough to start.
It is. Maybe you commit to searching for one expat group on Facebook tonight. Or perhaps you just start narrating your breakfast preparation tomorrow morning. Pick one, apply it immediately, and commit to consistency. Consistency, not variety, is the only true currency of fluency.
And that leads directly to the broader implication we need to leave you with, which stems from the powerful diagnostic capability of tip 8, the self-recording.
Oh, yeah?
If hearing your own recorded voice exposes pronunciation flaws you didn't even know existed, flaws hidden by that subconscious difference between internal perception and acoustic reality, it raises a really powerful universal question.
Which is?
What essential areas of your life, your professional performance, your leadership style, your daily habits, might be fundamentally flawed, making hidden mistakes that you were completely unaware of simply because you lack that rigorous, objective external feedback or a self-measurement tool? It's a reminder that self-improvement in any area requires closing that gap between what you think you are doing and what you are actually doing. Language is just one domain where rigorous self-measurement reveals the hidden truth.
A very powerful thought to mull over as you begin your self-audit journey.
It is.
A perfect final thought for our learner. Now, apply those insights and start speaking. We'll be here when you're ready for the next deep dive.
Until next time.